Hi, this is the Stony Brook University Community of Scholars webcast. My name's Aradhana Natarajan, and I'm here with Elizabeth Jermko to discuss youth mental illness and depression. So, you have mentioned that you've been suffering from depression and other mental illnesses for a large portion of your life, and we were hoping that by sharing Elizabeth's story, we could raise awareness and help people realize that they're not alone. So, whenever you feel free, just talk.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. And so it really all started when I was 4 years old, and I was a victim, unfortunately, of assault. And I knew it was wrong. I knew something had changed in me mentally, but I didn't really know exactly what had happened until 5th grade when I learned the term for what happened to me. And then it just became an even bigger part of my life. It had been a part of my life leading up to that. It really changed the way my brain developed. But then it was right there in the forefront as a secret that I had to keep even more so now, because I didn't tell anyone about it. And as soon as that happened, I was really like, now that I know exactly what it is, exactly how serious it is, I especially can't tell anyone. So right from that young age, I was holding this really traumatizing secret in that every time I would think about it, I would literally just burst into tears. And then, so as I got older, I started to work on it by myself because I didn't tell anyone. So I was trying to figure out how to heal by myself and just work on it, doing things such as not seeing every single person the same way, like not being scared of one guy because another one did this to me. And by the time I was 14, though, my depression had gotten really bad. I didn't really have that many friends in school, and the friends I did have, like my best friends usually ended up moving, like states away, and then I would barely see them again, if ever. And so I was just struggling with ever-changing friend groups and really just trying to find my place. And when I was 14 years old, I actually tried to commit suicide because I just felt so hopeless. I felt lost. I felt like I wouldn't belong anywhere with any group of people. And so my parents obviously found out about this because I left a note, and although unsuccessful, my parents still found that, and I couldn't hide it in time. And so they were like, you need to see a therapist, we need to get you help, and I refused because I grew up in a really small town where if you did anything at all, people would find out. So I didn't want people to know I was seeing a therapist. I didn't want people to know that I had tried to commit suicide because I would be labeled as the weird girl, as the unstable girl. And I already was struggling trying to find friends. I didn't need that on top of it. About a week later, a rumor got started about me, and I was terrified. Someone had called me, and I was terrified that it was going to be about my attempt, that somehow people had found out, even though I had told no one. But instead, thanks to small towns, it was a rumor about something sexual that hadn't even happened. It was a lie that got spread around not only my school, but the 4 other surrounding schools. And so everyone knew this fake rumor about me, and my reputation was going down the drain. And this was when I was about to start freshman year of high school. So I had to go into high school with this, and it just made me feel even worse. And the girl who started the rumor actually messaged me and said, everyone hates you, you should just kill yourself. Little did she know I had just tried. But then I had to go through freshman year dealing with this rumor and still trying to find a friend group who would accept me. And a lot of people did abandon me after that rumor got spread. I was lucky enough that I did have some friends who stuck by me and made their friends accept me too, so I would sit at their table, and so I didn't have to be alone, which was really nice. And freshman year kind of just kept my head down, really didn't hang out with too many people, just tried to get through it. Just really wanted to finish high school so I could move on and move 6.5 hours across state to go to a different school. And so then I wouldn't, excuse me. So senior year of high school, I started to find the pop punk music scene. Mm-hmm. And everyone there, not everyone, but the majority of people really understood what I was going through. They had, at least the depression aspect, they had similar stories and they knew what to say. And so I was able to start talking about my experiences and what happened to me to people who weren't judging me for it. And I didn't have to worry about them telling 5 billion other people about it. And during this time, I was starting to get right on a good track again, starting to work with my depression. And my parents and I went on vacation to the Caribbean for a conference, a dermatology conference. And there's never people my age there, but I found someone who was. And we started hanging out every single day. And about 5 days in, I decided, like, I knew this person enough where, I mean, like, I didn't trust them fully, but I didn't find anything sketchy about them. And at one point, I said that I had to go get a phone from my room just because my sister needed to contact my dad. So he said, oh, like, I'll go with you. And I said, okay, cool, fine. We got the phone, no problem. And then he said, can we grab my phone charger from my room? And we had just gone to mine, no problem. So I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine, whatever. And so I went with him, and the second the door closed, he assaulted me. Okay. And so I just started healing. I just started finding the acceptance, and then that happened again. And then that was all I could think of. And I literally just wanted to get out of the situation. I just wanted to go home. I never wanted to look at his face again, but I didn't want to tell anyone because, like the first time, it had then become a secret that I didn't want to stress my parents out with. Yeah. I didn't want to have to put that on them. So I just internalized it. And that one, even though I'd found this new group of friends who was accepting, it still took me a really long time to be able to come out about those stories too. And so then I got to college, and my roommate had gone through very similar experiences to my own, so we were able to help each other. And that was very beneficial, but we also had very different ways to deal with our mental illness. Mm. So when we lived together again, sophomore year, she dealt with it in a very different way than I did, where we kind of fed off each other in a negative way. She needed more time with people and to be around people, and I'm very introverted, and I need time away from people in order to, like, reset and work on my mental health. So we were just, like, bouncing off each other. I was calling my dad every day, crying, just, like, in such a negative place. Just didn't even want to be at Stony Brook, the school that the semester before I would walk around campus smiling, just looking at the trees, thinking how beautiful it was, how happy I was to be there. Like, I got into my top choice. This is awesome. And then that semester, I was just miserable. But luckily, it's not really luckily, but I got a blood clot in my eye. And because of this, though, I was able to get a medical single. Okay. And I lived across the hall from my best friend, Jolly. And we would just open up the doors and sit at our desk doing makeup and just talking to each other and just hanging out all the time, which really got me into a better place. I felt more stable. And that pretty much wraps up where I am now. I last 2 Augusts ago told my dad about needing help. I finally reached out, and since then I've also gotten a therapist. I've gotten a new psychiatrist who's gotten me on meds that have helped me a lot, and it only took 20 years, but I reached out and got the help I need, and a year later I've seen so much of a difference.
That's wonderful. So one of the points that really struck me was you mentioned that you coped with it differently than your friend. And I think that that's a point that gets lost a lot when we talk about mental illness, because people are under the impression that everyone who presents with a mental illness presents the same way, right? Mm-hmm. That everyone who has depression will look a certain way, everyone that has PTSD will act a certain way. And a lot of times it's not like that. It's not a one-size-fits-all, right? Like, just like if you get the common cold, some people might be out for like a week, and some people might like get like chills, and some people might be coughing. Different people who present with the same mental disorder will show it in different ways. And so when it comes time to seek help, a lot of people might not even realize that they need help. I wanted to go more into like some of the barriers you experienced before reaching out for therapy. And I suppose we can bring that out to the next segment. So for now, I just want to close with asking what kind of tips or advice you'd have to impart for people who are currently living in silence with depression or PTSD or other mental illness.
Yeah, definitely. My biggest tip is reach out to someone. Let it be your friend. Someone, even just, there's helplines out there. You can text them if you don't want to talk to them. Just actually talking about it is so important. It's really the first step, because when you're internalizing that, it's eating you alive. It might be hard. I know it is. I know it's really hard. I only told my parents about my assaults last April. So I know it's really hard, but as soon as you get it out there, as soon as you tell someone, and be careful who you tell, you will know who you can trust enough to tell or not, but it'll be the biggest weight off your shoulders. That's the very first step, and just working on healing yourself. By telling someone, you get that weight off your shoulders, and then you can start working through it.
Social support is extremely important in improving people's prognoses and reducing the risk that they'll relapse into mental illness. If someone does come to you with a problem, hear them out. Don't try and offer solutions until they've gotten everything out. Listen to them. That's the most important thing you can do for someone suffering, is to hear them out and provide a safe and comfortable space for them to express what they're going through. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it's really brave of you that you managed to reach out and get help, because getting help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength, and it helps you heal. And we've covered a lot of really heavy topics in today's discussion, so if you or anyone you know is suffering from mental illness or suicidal thoughts, please don't hesitate to call the SAMHSA hotline at 1-800-273-8255. We also have a list of hotlines below for people with more specific needs, and there's trained staff available to help you. Please remember that you're not alone and that there are people out there who care. So please join us again for our next segment, where we talk about some of the social and larger scale factors at play in the development of mental illnesses, specifically in college-age and young populations. I'm Aradhana Natarajan, and this has been a Community of Scholars webcast. Thank you for joining us.